Aftersun is a 2022 drama film written and directed by Charlotte Wells, starring Paul Mescal, Frankie, Corio, and Celia Rowlson-Hall. Set in the early 2000s, the film follows Sophie, an 11-year-old Scottish girl, on vacation with her father at a Turkish resort on the eve of his 31st birthday. Aftersun was released in the United States on the 21st of October 2022 by A24 and the United Kingdom on the 18th of November 2022 by Mumbai. The film received acclaim from critics, who praised Wells' direction and screenplay and the performances of Mescal and Corio, with the former earning a nomination for Best Actor at the 95th Academy Awards. It was also named one of the best films in 2022 by the National Board of Review and was awarded the top place at the Sight and Sound on its poll for Best Films of the Year. Aftersun is the feature film debut of director and writer Charlotte Wells. Calling it emotionally autobiographical, she sought to delve into the different period in a relationship between a young parent and a daughter than what she explored in her 2015 debut short film, Tuesday. Frankie Corio was one of over 800 applicants before being cast. Filming took place in Olidets in Turkey. During the 2-week rehearsal period, Corio and Mescal spent time at holiday resort in order to make their dynamic more authentic. Charlotte Wells stated in a recent interview that during the 2 weeks rehearsal period the cast and crew had on set in Turkey, there were 2 read-throughs of the script, with just Wells, Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio. Wells also added that these scripts purposely did not contain scenes with Mescal alone, which focus on detail on his depression in which Callum is experiencing, so that Corio's performance was naive to these facts, just as Sophie is. In the film, Callum is seen practicing Tai Chi, an internal Chinese martial art practiced for defense training, health benefits and meditation. The director said in an interview that this was a detail that she took from her family, specifically her father and his brothers. She added that this was an aspect of Callum's character that reflected the process of searching. During a 2022 interview, Frankie Corio, who plays Sophie, stated that she and her on-screen father, Paul Mescal, became very close during filming and still FaceTime each other to stay in contact. The film is loosely based on Charlotte Wells' own experience on holiday with her own father when she was young. The early audition process for Frankie Corio, who played Sophie, consisted of self-tapes of her carrying out daily tasks and activities with her family before landing an in-person audition. If you notice, the rug that Callum actually purchases whilst on holiday with Sophie is in Sophie's flat during the present-day scenes. And although the ending is left intentionally ambiguous, there are many hints throughout the film that Callum is struggling with depression and suicidal ideation during the vacation. So examples include Callum wandering too close to a moving bus, balancing on the edge of a balcony, wading carelessly into the ocean, scuba diving without a license, cutting his cast off by himself, and breathing through a wet towel, among other reckless behaviours. Now, I went into this film with massive expectations. Firstly, I'm a huge Paul Mescal fan. I thought he was absolutely magnificent in the show, Normal People. So when I'd seen that he'd been nominated for an Oscar, I knew this was a film I had to watch. Unfortunately, though, I left the film feeling somewhat disappointed. For me, this is a drab, dreary, and at times pointless film that really moves so slowly that I almost found it hard to concentrate at times. For me, the story fundamentally goes nowhere. I can see exactly what Charlotte Wells was trying to portray here. And I can definitely see it has a personal touch to the film, and it's really a telling of her own childhood, as it were. It's just though for me she almost tries too hard to make it too abstract, too out there, rather than focusing on an intellectually emotional, mature film about a daughter and a father experiencing life together. Paul Mescal is very good in this role, but there's not many times you actually really see his face. In fact, one of the few times he shows true emotion, the camera is actually facing his back. Mescal, like I said, was absolutely breathtaking in the show Normal People, so I fully know how capable of an actor he really is. I blame Charlotte Wells here, though, for not tapping into his fantastic talent and using him better in this film. It's a very good performance, but it's by no means an Oscar-winning performance for me. And maybe my expectations were too high, and like I said, I'm a big fan of his work. It's just that for me in this film, he's almost quite irritating. I can't say I ever really felt empathy for him or sympathy. He just seems like a father that's lost, maybe trying too hard to win over Sophie's affection, but not really understanding who she is. The standout performance, though, has to be here for me, Frankie Corio as Sophie. She's absolutely superb. She's completely natural, and it's almost like you're watching a home movie of her, as she's completely natural. And she has a very good rapport with Paul Mescal. You can almost see them being a father and daughter per se. Like I said, it's well acted, it's well made. I just found the movie a bit too abstract for my liking. I think it tries to be too clever, too complicated, and leaves you feeling almost empty, lost and perplexed, as you don't really know where it's all going. What really is the point at the end of the day? The film is trying to be ambiguous. It's trying to portray a complicated relationship between a father and a daughter. On top of it, the father, of course, now suffering from depression and also being a very young father at that. For me, films are about being entertained. Of course, I can appreciate the finer aspects, but I never felt I was entertained in this film. I felt disappointed. I felt at times my mind wandered off, as the scenes would just be prolonged, nothing would happen. And it almost felt like you're watching an amateur take on what's supposed to be a movie. Now, I know the critics have absolutely loved this one, and like I said, there are aspects to the film I can see why, but I have to go on my initial feeling, which is I was disappointed. And I really just do not feel Paul Mescal deserves a nomination for this film, let alone a win, which is of course also very unlikely. Some critics have said, and I quote, that the film is astonishing and devastating, and have even said that Wells reinvents the language of film, unlocking medium's often dormant potential to disclose inner worlds of consciousness and feeling. That the film is visually fluid and deftly orchestrated, empathetic and honest character study. For me, unfortunately, I found it didn't do any of those things. If anything, I found it completely self-indulgent and, as I said, too abstract. It's drab, it's dull, it's dreary, and it really just goes nowhere. And albeit I can see some of the more interesting points that people alluded to with regards to this film, it's a film that just left me feeling somewhat dismayed, with the exception of Frankie Corio's phenomenal performance. Aftersun gets a 5 out of 10.